So you've worked hard for 3, 4, 5, 6 years and now the finish line is in sight.
No matter what degree you're undertaking, it's always scary to head out into the big wide world of jobs.
So we here at Yak would like to help.
We did some research, spoke to some experts and put together this short film to help guide you through how to succeed after graduation.
First off, experience. How you spend your time at university is essential for putting you ahead of the pack when applying for jobs. But getting professional experience shouldn't just be a resume filler. You should actively seek out companies that align with your interests and career goals.
I mean, we usually tell students it takes about as much time to get a job as it does to do a subject. And that might be through networking or whatever, but that then begs the question when you start the subject, and really you can start in first year if you want to. And I think even having a mindset that everything you do at uni is actually going to help your resume. So then you have to say, well, okay, what differentiates me from the next person? And it's very often things like volunteering, part-time work. A lot of students are very stressed about part-time work, but actually if you sort of weave it into your story in a good way. People love people that worked in bars and McDonald's and whatever because they know that they've kind of put up with a lot. You know, would you like fries with that? So it's a matter of making the most of all the other experiences, I suppose, that you've had at uni to add to your degree. Some really big graduate recruiters now, like the UN and Disney and so on, are using electronic culling for resumes if they get huge numbers, and they'll tell us that words like volunteer, club, society are often things that they look for in resumes above and beyond your degree. But so it's a matter of really looking at what each employer's after, but sort of presenting yourself as a package. Yeah.
I guess one thing, when I was finishing my degree, I started to try to think ahead and just that planning, thinking about the industries you want to go into. For me as a creative person, thinking about all the people doing work similar to me or that I'm interested in, seeing what they're doing, opportunities for shows, galleries, prizes, kind of trying to start to get information together for that kind of stuff so you can hit the ground running. Trying to always upskill as well, I guess. Trying to always just do extra little bits on the side while you can, especially, one day you might have a family, it's going to get a lot harder to do that kind of stuff, so do it while you've got the time. At a few hours a week you can kind of pick up a lot of extra skills and learn things, and jump in feet first with things. I found there's lots of things I today still don't know what I'm doing, but you just kind of commit, create a general idea of what you're going to do and jump in and do it, and talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people to learn what you need to know. Networking is such a valuable tool. Yeah.
But how on earth do you find out about jobs going? When do you apply? Are there any graduate positions available to you in your degree? It can all be a little overwhelming at first, but being organised and knowing what you want and who you want to work for is key to landing your dream career.
And what we call a graduate program is basically a development opportunity to go in as a cohort, and really the organisations are looking at it as engagement and will prepare you for senior management. It's a little bit counterintuitive there. They start closing very early in your final year because the process itself takes a long time. So people that would be working in, say, Australian government grad programs that are going to start in 2017 are probably getting their offers around now, which is why we have our Careers Expos in March. Some people say over 80% of jobs are never advertised. So it's really just a matter, again, of, I think, treating it as a research proposition. So if you start with the basics and kind of narrow down your goals and come and talk to us and sort of, I guess we can sort of skill you up in networking, information interviewing, sort of looking under rocks to find jobs. So if you're using all your energy on SEEK and graduate programs, you're effectively using all your energy on 30% of the market, which isn't a good plan, really. Yeah.
Another thing to think about is how comfortable you can be leaving your comfort zones. An important consideration is if you can be the best in your field by staying in Newcastle.
There's certainly work in Newcastle. For me, I find the target market for my product, you need to kind of target the right areas, but that's the case anywhere. There's certainly quite a few illustrators, artists working in this area. There's also quite a few based in Newcastle that work in the bigger cities as well, present a lot of their work in Sydney and so on. There's certainly challenges being in Newcastle. You know, trying to get your work at that national level can be quite difficult. It can be quite a closed group that you have to kind of penetrate, which can be difficult from a regional area. But then the local industry is incredibly supportive as well.
Your cover letter and CV are in most cases your foot in the door, so it's important to make sure you have the right first impression. Tailoring your resume and CV to each position is essential.
Well, I think the first thing to probably sort of note is that a resume should be different for every job you go for. So a resume is really your story and what skills you've got for a particular job. And I think probably the most common mistake people make is to sort of say, here's my resume, where they've basically sort of downloaded everything they've ever done. Whereas if you start off with a career objective, that way you're going to target your resume. So a resume you had for hospitality, for example, might detail every coffee shop you've ever worked in. You may not want to do that for a graduate job. You'll certainly want to say you worked in hospitality, but you're not going to go through the detail of 5 or 6 coffee shops. So I think the main thing is to really see the resume as a living document, keep targeting it and keep thinking about really what you want the employers to know about yourself. Also, lots of nice use of white space. There's a fair bit of sort of argy-bargy. People say, oh, you know, it only has to be 2 pages or 1 page or whatever. Basically, you kind of give the employer whatever they want. But really, as long as it's edited, it's got white space, it's all kind of, it follows a sequence. That's probably much more important in a way than length per se. With covering letters, they're a bit different. That's like when you go for an interview, you always get asked the question, tell me about yourself and why you want to work here. And to me, that's what a covering letter is. It's like your pitch. And again, it's very much why you want to work there in particular and why you're suitable.
You've got the call, suited up, and deleted those incriminating Instagram photos, and now it's time to smash out that interview. And while interviews may be a sweaty and nerve-wracking affair, there is a way to make yourself seem cool. Cool, calm, and overqualified.
2 main things that probably sound a little bit contradictory. The first is you have to do enough research on the firm to know about them in particular. So you might think of something like, say, banks. You might think of our 4 banks and think surely they're more similar than different, and they probably are, but to them they're very conscious of their point of difference. So the first question will often be, how are we different from our competitors? But then after that, I would think the other thing is that it is like the application in that while you obviously have to know where you're going, the interview is mostly going to be about you. So what skills and abilities have you got? What do you bring to that particular position? And most of those interviews are what we call behavioural. So they'll actually be asking you examples of teamwork, communication skills, all that kind of thing. So you have to have really specific examples. So if I can say that students make a mistake in interviewing, they often treat it like they're going to have a big exam about a company, like it's going to be like a quiz show. And while you have to know that up to a point, it's much more important that you think through. If someone says to you, tell me about a time when you worked in a team, tell me about a time when you solved a conflict, that's the sort of thing you'll be asked to quite a specific level. And just sort of before I leave that topic, it's never a good idea to mention tutorials, and you can probably guess in a graduate context anyway, that's because they're a really devalued currency. So employers get very sick of hearing about the person who was the hero of the tutorial and they pulled the assignment together when everyone else was sleeping in and all that sort of thing, which I know that happens, but you know that's probably better to use another example for teamwork. So things like sport, community involvement, that's what employers really like.
Oh God, what about social media, Justin?
Good point. While sites like LinkedIn are an essential networking tool, you should probably be careful of what you're putting on Facebook.
I'd have to go reevaluate some things. Excuse me.
Finally, if academia is more your thing, continuing your studies on at uni is another option. The University of Newcastle offers honours, masters and doctoral studies to eligible students. I sat down with PhD student Anthony to discuss his experiences of postgrad study.
I was actually interested in a part of zoology called ecotoxicology, and that dealt with studying the impacts of toxic substances on on organisms in the environment. So I thought, I moved into that. I was fascinated by, how do pollutants impact organisms adversely. So I had to look out for opportunities within that field, and I got this opportunity to study for a master's in contamination, risk assessment and remediation in Lancaster University in the UK. I looked for other opportunities, to continue, because looking at where I want to go to, I want to become like an academia. I want to be able to impart students, within my area of interest. Most especially like letting people know what the risk of these contaminants are. So I thought it was important to gain advanced knowledge within my area of interest. So I had to look out for doing a PhD, and I actually got 2 opportunities, one in the UK, one here, and I thought, I've done my master's in the UK. It's very cold. So I thought it was good to get a different perspective, and I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity at the University of Newcastle, and I took it.
No matter what stage of the degree you're in, there's always ways to put you ahead of the pack.
That's right, so there's no need to stress just yet.
Be organised, start early, get involved, and know what you want.
Good luck with the job hunt. I'm Annabelle.
I'm Justin.
I'm Dane.
And I'm Lauren.
And you're watching Yak TV.